Morning, guys, and welcome to the first edition of Social Studies class with Mrs. Frieda for the week of April 27th, 2020. This is the first week that I will be posting what you'll be learning about for the particular week, and I hope you enjoy these videos, and please make sure you watch them because they do give a good overview about what you'll be doing, the content that you'll be studying for the week. So let's get right into it, what your assignments will be for this particular week. So on Monday, you will submit your slideshow to the assignments page, but you also have to post it to the Google Classroom stream. You are to watch 3 other slideshows. Yes, that means you have to view 3 slideshows of your classmates. Type into a Google document what 3 things you learned from each slideshow and then upload it to the Google Classroom. That will be a graded assignment. So if you look at the title of this slide, it says the colonies come of age. And if you recall, there's how many colonies? Yes, that is correct. There are 13 colonies. Some are north, some are in the middle, and some are south. So at this point, the colonies are almost becoming young adults, and some events are going to be happening where in Europe, England is going to want to become the most powerful country in the world, and they're going to need the colonies to do this. Some positive things happen, but there are a lot of negative things that are going to happen. So this week, the essential questions are, in what ways were the American colonies becoming their own nation before 1763? Going to remember that date. And then in what ways were they still part of the British Empire? So again, there were some positives that were happening. England and its self-governing colonies were trading with one another, and it was beneficial to both. However, European countries are going to start competing for wealth. If you recall, Britain always seemed to be clashing with Spain and France over who was more powerful. Great Britain wanted to control the colonies and the economy of the colonies to make sure that they became the wealthiest country in the world. Before we get into the colonies coming of age, we just want to go back and review what the 3 sections are of the colonies. The New England colonies, the Middle colonies, and the Southern colonies. And they were all very different. They all developed different economies. They had different types of societies. Slavery was much more prevalent in the Southern colonies. The assignments that you have this week is reading and taking notes from the textbook. You will learn about something called the Navigation Acts of 1651. This is going to restrict colonial trade with any country not owned by England or England themselves. And what this did was making all the money for England. One of the events that you will learn about this week is called the French and Indian War. How many of you students have heard of the French and Indian War? And it is not just a war where France and Indians are fighting each other. It is a British and French conflict with Indians, Native Americans fighting on either side. They were wanted control of North America, and what's going to happen is Britain is going to end up defeating the French. So as I just mentioned, England ends up defeating France in the French and Indian War. One of the most popular questions in history is to ponder the question, if England did not win, would we be speaking French right now, and what would the Americas be like? Americans in the 13 colonies are thrilled to be English after the defeat of the French in the French and Indian War, and there's a lot of patriotism. The colonists like George Washington helped England defeat France. However, England wins a lot of land, and with that comes problems. Before we get into the problems that more land created for the British after the French and Indian War, let's take a look at the map just so that you have a visual. The first map, that is the pre-war boundaries of 1754, shows the territory that England and France owned. So the English was obviously the purple territory. If you look at the picture on the right, post-war boundaries of 1763, you will notice that much of Canada and more of the Ohio territory is now going to be owned by the British. Yes, you can think this is going to be a really great thing, but there's a lot of negatives that come out of this and problems. Just a brief overview of the results of the French and Indian War. You will read more about this week from the textbook. France is expelled from North America. The English are going to start viewing the colonists as undisciplined and lazy. The colonial view is exactly the opposite. England is going to have serious debt problems because they're going to have to pay for the war. England dominates North America, and the colonists decide, well, we helped you win the war, so we're going to settle in the Ohio River Valley, which is going to anger the Native Americans living there. As I mentioned in the previous slide, England was awarded much land in the Ohio River Valley, where Native Americans already were living. The king did not want to anger these Native Americans, and therefore he issued what's called the Proclamation of 1763. British subjects were forbidden for settling west of this proclamation line. What exactly was the Proclamation of 1763? It was an imaginary line along the Appalachian Mountains. Colonists were not allowed to settle west of the line, but it caused problems because people were already living there and they were supposed to move. Colonists also viewed this with outrage because they had risked their lives in the French and Indian War, and they felt that they should be allowed to live in this territory. Another reason why the king did not want the colonists to live there is because he did not want to have to pay for a military to protect the colonists from the Native Americans. As you can imagine or possibly predict, Americans resisted the Proclamation of 1763. The resistance was a sign of change in their relationship with Great Britain. The colonists had developed their own set of interests and their own American culture. What was good for Great Britain might not be good for the colonists, and many colonists began to see themselves as Americans rather than British subjects. Many Americans had never even been to England and had been born in the colonies. The Proclamation of 1763 would not be the last act of the British government to anger the American colonists. Over the next several years, the disagreements would get worse, and then you would start seeing the events that led to the road to the American Revolution. So I hope you enjoyed a brief overview of the colonies coming of age. Each assignment will be posted on the morning of each day. Tuesday, you will do some sort of textbook reading and taking notes, and I will be posting the exact sections that you will need to read and the chart that you'll need to fill out, and you can work with a partner or partners on that. Wednesday and Thursday, you'll be working on some sort of textbook investigation. We've done those in class. And again, on Wednesday morning, I will post the exact directions and where you need to go. And then Friday will be some sort of fun activity that'll be one assignment across the board, part of science, social studies, math, same type of activities that you've been doing the last couple of weeks. All right. And I hope you have a really great week. And I am just going to now go over to the slide to remind you about your Google Meets. Here is a reminder of when your Google Meets take place every Tuesday and the periods and the time. I will also be posting about 5 minutes before these meetings take place the URLs so you can get into these Google Meets. So that's it, guys. Have a great week.